As part of Lesotho's continued shallow drilling program, Village Main Reef announced the intersection of Merensky Platinum Reef at a depth of 204 meters below surface. The reef has a width of about 1 meter and contains visible sulfide mineralization, which indicates that the reef may contain economic grades of platinum group elements plus gold. Lesotho's pre-feasibility study is due to be released early next year. The bankable feasibility study is scheduled for completion at the end of 2012, beginning 2013. So, Deryck, I suppose this confirms the fact that you don't have to dig too deep to be profitable. Village obviously holding 77% of the stake in Lesotho, and IDC holding the remaining 23%. But I was surprised to hear that this ore body is economically viable at such shallow depths.
Yeah, and that also came as a bit of a surprise. It's obviously very shallow, but you know, just looking at the company Village, it's definitely come onto my radar, particularly in the last week. Just watching it and looking at the movements that it's made. Now, you've also got Bernard Swanepoel that sits in the company, which you know, brings a lot of expertise to the picture. And you know, looking at how they've disposed of assets, looking to acquire assets, there's obviously a very structured plan in place. But what I must stress is this is a very risky share. And, you know, you're basically investing in the prospects that they're going to deliver. And there's obviously going to be speed-ups in the along the line. Obviously, they said that their bankable feasibility comes in at the end of 2012. And that, you know, there could be some hiccups along the way that could postpone that. So
but there's also a positive correlation between risk and return. So the higher the risk, the greater the return.
Correct.
Shouldn't we all be tossing our money into Village Main then?
No, correct. But I mean, I wouldn't put it all in. I would maybe think about taking a little stab at it, but I wouldn't put the portfolio on it. But it does look interesting. And just watching the trading volumes in the last week, you can just definitely see there's a lot of interest there and potentially some institutional interest as well. So I'm definitely raising an eyebrow to it. I want to do a little bit more homework on it, but I am very comfortable with management and it does start to look interesting now.
Well, something that concerns me is that this company is not cash flush. Can you share your thoughts around how they're going to finance this acquisition of Blayfour from DRD for 150 million rand?
Well, it's basically what they can do is they can obviously issue more shares into the market and obviously raise capital and do it that way. Otherwise, they can get a private party to come to the picture to raise the capital. But I think at this stage, it worries me to see a share, you know, with no prospects in picture or no answer just yet, to see it tick up as quickly as what it has to the levels that you've seen, because there hasn't really been some strong fundamental earnings that have been coming through and pushing the stock to the levels that you're seeing. It's really been trading to the levels on a lot of speculation on where it can go, what it can do. Yes, there's potential net asset value with a bit of platinum at such low depths. Can they get it out the ground? Can they deliver? So there are a lot of risks attached to it, but I still think, you know, I still like to take a bit of risk, and it's worth
Well,
a
let's
stab.
bring in the technical analyst, and we're seeing a nice bullish trend on that Village Main. Take us through the chart, please, Ron.
Well, there are actually two pictures in one here. First of all, the main picture that I want to show you is the major long-term trend, which is depicted by the falling 200-day moving average. Now, that is the primary trend. That's the overall long-term trend. However, the medium-term trend since June 2011 has been steadily moving upwards. This indication of the October-November price action is a very, very important price action. Now, I can see why Deryck's a little bit confused in terms of the fundamental picture, but from the technical analysis perspective, this was a very, very important test when it broke through the 200-day moving average, retraced back to found support at the 200-day moving average, and is now bounced back above that moving average, which is confirming that the nature of the primary trend wants to change direction from a bearish trend to a bullish trend.
And that divergence has been confirmed by the oscillators on the bottom. Could you just take us through that and then tell us quickly whether you think it's a hot stock or not?
Okay, just in clarity, the divergence for the oscillators means that the short-term trend, so basically in the last week or so, is slowing down. So that's basically what the divergence is suggesting. So we may find a bit of a retracement back to around the 168 level. We can see that prices are currently sitting at that resistance of the 195 level. So there's a higher probability that prices could pull back to the 168. But at 168, I am a firm buyer of Village.
Firm buyer at 168, resistance around 195. Deryck, tell us whether you think it's a hot stock or not and what level you'd be buying at.
High risk, but I do think it's hot. It's worth taking a stab. But obviously this market is like a yo-yo at the moment. So wait for a little bit of weakness and potentially a bit of panic to set into this market. And you could see the stock hopefully retrace to those levels and buy it on weakness. Don't don't try and buy it in the strength.
Don't rush into it quite so soon. You like Pinnacle. Tell us why you've chosen this as your stock pick for today, Deryck.
I like the company for a few reasons, and typically what you've got to look at here is the IT sector as a whole. And if you just look at the global IT sector at the moment, it's definitely a hot space to be in. And you are definitely seeing some of that sentiment roll over into our space and our IT space at the moment. And some of the IT stocks have been phenomenal here on our market. So if you just look at Pinnacle and you do it on a raw valuation basis and you look at potential forward earnings from where we sit at the moment, obviously you got cum dividend from this point. It sits on about a forward earnings yield of about 6.2, and that is very attractive. And you know, they've been making acquisitions that have obviously put it on a very positive light, and you're going to see some very enhancing movements with regards to the BEE buyback that they did. So it's a purely fundamental buy. I'm not really looking at the technical picture on it, but I do think that fundamentally you could see some nice earnings kickers come through in the next set of numbers. And again, I'm just trading where the hot space is, and I definitely think the technology space in terms of IT is really hot at the moment, and I do think there could be some potentially 40% upside from where we sit at the moment.
Potentially 40% upside on Pinnacle. You have chosen Goldfields as your stock pick. Surprise, surprise, Yonatan and gold once again. Tell us why.
Well, it's actually the first time I've actually picked a gold stock since actually talking about Goldfields when it was at about 112, saying that the 130 level is a good chance of hitting. Why I like Goldfields is for the simple reason that we've had a nice bit of a correction from the 140 level back down towards the 130 level. Oscillators in terms of RSI is nicely oversold, but the interesting part over here, just like we saw on the previous chart, we saw divergence. In this chart we're seeing convergence, meaning the downtrend is slowing down. Good support at the 129 level, and you know, as of this morning when I took the chart, it was 132.50. I believe Goldfield closed above this short-term resistance level today, above 136 I think it is. So that's a great sign. Good confirmation that that Goldfields want to continue higher.
You're a little bit sad. Should we have done the show earlier then, Yonatan?
We should have. Would have meant a lot more.
Deryck, care to give us your comment on Goldfields?
Look, my personal opinion is I don't actually like to invest in the gold space. I think it's purely a speculator's market when it comes to moving into gold stocks. So the fundamental case around a lot of these gold stocks doesn't give me conviction to buy them. But again, they can be nice traders, and you can make money in terms of trading the bottom support levels to the top resistance levels. And I do it purely to get potentially a bit of a hedge in a portfolio if there is a bit of uncertainty around. And obviously, if you do see those support levels stand out, I'm going to trade it for the short term.
I suppose you're also a bit of a gold bear then. You're not thinking it's going to breach that 2,000 an ounce level in 2012. Neil Rubini saying that gold is in a bubble. I suppose you echo those sentiments as well then, Deryck?
I wouldn't say it's in a bubble. I do share the sentiment that it's in an upward trend, but I think that there's been a lot of euphoria around gold at the moment, and there could potentially be a little bit more to come. There's obviously a lot of risk on the table in terms of where we stand in the Eurozone, uncertainties. So where we stand at the moment, I'm not necessarily a gold bull, but I do think that if you're going to get gold, rather go into something like a gold ETF like New Gold, and that's the way that I would play the gold sector.
A gold ETF, but Yonatan clearly liking Goldfields. To recap, get your hands on Goldfields. That's the stock pick from our guest, Yonatan Rom. And Deryck Janse Van Rensburg is really excited about the IT space, and his recommendation is Pinnacle with a forward PE of 6.2, you said, Deryck?
Yes, that's right.